I'm sorry, my grandson stole my flag.
I
I didn't
have
know
one.
where Oh, perfect. Are we ready to go? Are we good? Okay. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Barbara, if you call the roll, it's easier than trying to figure out where everybody is.
Kathy McGannon,
Here.
Laurel Anderson,
Here.
Suzanne D'Onofrio, Charlene Peterson,
Here.
and Maureen is absent.
Maureen is absent. Okay. And also with us is Kent Lewis and Jason Gill. Okay. All right. Do we have anybody on? To comment?
Yes, if anyone from the public would like to speak, you may press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen or press *9 if you're on the phone. It does not appear that anyone is interested in speaking at this time.
Kathy, are you buffering?
She may have frozen.
Yeah, my screen froze before.
Looks bored.
Oh, I think she's coming and going. She'll be back in.
Pasta is ready, but Grace said she can do it, or else she can go get that to help her.
It's always good to get kicked off your own meeting. All right, I before I got kicked off, I thought I asked for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
And a second?
Second, Laurel.
Okay, a discussion, any changes, additions, deletions, corrections that anybody needs to make?
It looks like
I'm
there's
sorry.
somebody with their hand up, a member of the public.
Okay, let's vote on the minutes and then we'll see if, I was afraid somebody would have trouble getting on. Can I have an approval of the minutes by unanimous consent?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, Bill.
Okay, telephone number 958. I think you can press *6 to unmute your line. Phone
ahead.
number, yes, ending in 958. You may speak.
anybody there?
Yeah, this is Marcus Bizito.
Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Do you have a comment to make?
No, I don't. I'm just calling to listen in.
Okay, then we'll mute you and that'll be fine. Okay, thank you. Okay. Treasurer's report.
I'll do it on behalf of Maureen. So from
Okay.
July 1st, 2020 through March 31st, 2021, the overall gain of the Housing Authority was $179,404. The operating gain before capital grants and depreciation was $79,613, of which $87,067 is attributed to the village and is that a minus, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, and minus 7,454 to congregate. For Stern Village, the current month's operating gain was 3,468 compared to the budgeted gain of $4,578. The slightly lower than projected gain is due to 5 weeks of payroll in March. Rent revenues continue to exceed expectations, now $20,000 over budgeted amounts. For the congregate, the current month's operating loss was $2,191 compared to the budget gain of $301. 5 weeks of March payroll, along with 3 biweekly security guard billings, contributed to the current month deficit. The overall cash position of the authority, including reserved, is $1,206,690, which includes $582,477 reserved for renovation costs at Stern Village. Construction payables total $30,202. The congregate payables to village increase represents March's cost share to be paid in April, pending receipt of DOH subsidy. In addition, the THA requested and was approved additional subsidy to offset the effects of vacant units totaling $43,767. The additional grant amount should offset losses incurred through the end of the year. We do have some balances which show increases to tenant delinquency accounts in the beginning of the year, primarily by those that have since vacated their respective property. March 2021 balances include credits due to prepayment of April rents. These rents were posted on March 31st for April. The average amount due upon vacating the unit was $300 to the village and $412 for congregate as of March 31st, 2021. I'm done with that report.
I do have some questions. I'm actually going to meet with Jason later in the week. I know there's a really packed agenda today, and I just want to go over a couple of accounts with him. I'll just send all the commissioners' notes. You may or may not care, but I'll send them to you anyway, what I find out. So Jason, one of the questions I have for you is account 3620 under the village. Last month we had discussed it, it's in the minutes. There was a sort of not a booking error, but it was probably just a placeholder. You were going to take the money out, but it looks like that account is now up to $9,000. So can we rebook or reclass?
Yes. When I was looking at the month end this time, I posted the entry to move it, but I posted it the date I did it. So it got posted in April.
Okay, great. Okay.
But the amount primarily is more donations. So you got another $2,000 in HACCP donations. So it will get reported down below in the donation section. And then I'll move the rest up to, there's some damages in sales. So we'll put it up in services to tenants.
Okay. And so the way I'm reading the accounts receivable, is it actually possible that we may be at some point at the end of the year being asked to write off as much as $15,000 in that inactive AR account?
Yes, yes. I'm prepared to, obviously when we get that far, my hope was actually to do it if there's time next meeting even. Because typically I like to do it a month before the last month so I can make sure it's all processed by year end.
Okay.
So typically we recommend you do it in May before the June year end. I would give you obviously the full breakdown. What I'd like to also do is hopefully give you a little bit more history to see, how old the accounts are and how many months upon leaving. I know when I quickly looked at it, it averages about a month per person. And if that's what that means, so when we're looking at the schedule, if we're looking at Stern Village only, we're up to $15,000. That's 50 people.
Right.
If you did the quick math, that's $300 a person. It's not exact science, but yeah, typically when they leave abruptly,
Right.
they likely didn't pay the last month's rent.
Okay.
So this is at least 2 years worth.
Our discussion later about the security deposit might help to alleviate that. So as much as this discussion is, I wanted to get it straight in my head, I also kind of want to make sure that this informs the discussion later about how we may be able to not get hit all the time with that last month when for whatever reason people leave abruptly. Anyway, so the rest of it, Jason, I will wait and discuss with you. And then, like I say, I'll just do a quickie synopsis of my questions and instead of doing it now. I know we're busy today. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the financial reports? Good. Go to the executive director's report.
Okay.
Laurel, it's my internet is so unstable at this point that if I disappear again, would you just take over till I can get back on? I'm shaky. Okay, sorry, Harriet.
No problem. So we currently have 17 applications for Stern Village. We're taking applications for Stern Village up until June 15th. They're available at our THA office, at the congregate, on our website, or anyone can mail us a self-addressed stamped envelope. We'll mail one back for you. Let's talk about rehab of the village. We have 2 hotel units on site to be used for moving residents or rehab the apartments. GE appliances are back ordered for several weeks. We have enough to get us through 6 rehabs until I get our delivery. So that is going smooth, actually. And, unfortunately, we're moving a little slower only because of waiting for the appliances. Community room. We will have a soft opening on June 1st. We're limited to 15 residents. They must sign up. We will have bingo, men's club, and other resident activities. Friday, I had my first monthly meeting with the residents since COVID. It was held in the community room. I had 2 resident meetings that day, and then we will continue these meetings for the rest of the year. Hopefully, we can just have one big meeting and everyone can come. So in order to open the community room, we do have new CDC guidelines. Paulette and Heather are working on a handout for that. It was great. Residents are great. We talk about issues, we solve problems. We hear their point of view. We let them know what's going on, and they always have some great suggestions. So we are planning on we had an ice cream truck last year. We're planning on getting them back. We're looking at maybe a pizza truck and some other things, for the residents for the spring. In order to continue our mission to provide affordable housing and a safe and sanitary place to live, our residents must be mindful of the rules in the lease agreement. Behaviors demonstrated that are not compliant with our lease agreement will not be tolerated. Heather's working on a tenant charge list based on what other housing authorities are charging residents for damages. This will be provided to the residents of these 30 calendar days before the board approval, and we'll have meetings to provide the residents with an opportunity to present their comments. I've always said time and materials, but we're growing. We really need a list of every single thing that you can charge for, just so there's absolutely no issue.
Harry, could you just, a few examples of what you're talking about?
Okay, so for example, a resident takes their smoke detector and it's beeping too loud, or they have smoke in their apartment and they decide that they're going to pull it off the wall. So therefore, we charge them for a new smoke detector. Let's say resident damages the oven because of grease spills. Depending on the parts, if it's a burner or if it's a whole oven, we would charge them for the oven. So these are things, I mean, there are authorities that have every single part listed, and there are ones that just, have a few things. But again, we have had damages in the past. Residents have paid for them. We just want to make sure that, all the charges are put down there, including maintenance time. What it takes for a maintenance person to fix something. Again, if it's by resident caused.
And then that will come to the board for approval, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Spring cleanup is
I missed
here.
pieces of that.
Oh, okay. Spring cleanup is here. Residents who have an abundance of items on the porch or side of their apartment have received letters to dispose them. We are starting inspections in all apartments the middle of May. Because of COVID, we could not do this last year, but now we're clear to. So residents will know about that. Obviously, there'll be letters going out when they come, and there's a whole list of things that we look for. The maintenance makes sure smoke detectors work, new batteries. They make sure that or the pull cords, they're beeping. They check for everything. They check the refrigerators, they check the appliances, they look around. So there's a whole list of items. They also look for to see if there's an overabundance of stuff in someone's apartment, because we want to keep our apartments nice and clean. Jason and I are working on budgets for a new fiscal year. We hope to have approved for the board next month. The HTCC 2020 application is due June 1st. I was on a seminar today to talk about it. With board approval, I would like to apply for additional enhancements for the congregate. The amount, if approved, will be for $500,000. And my hope is that we can use this funding for a new elevator, replacement of air conditionings, recovery air ventilation for the first floor, ceilings, new fire doors for dining room and kitchen, new floors throughout the building, new windows, new energy efficient refrigerators for 36 units, if that's doable. And again, any of the new energy efficient lighting, new windows, the dining room, and we hope to get energy rebates from United Illuminating as well. I believe right now for the refrigerators, they give about $100 rebate. So that's a nice little, thing to have. I am getting proposals. I have reached out to a few different people to help us with the HTCC. And as soon as I get them, we might have to have a special board meeting next week or the week after, to decide on who's going to do this, so that we can move ahead, with the HTC funding. It's a very involved application. Ken, I don't know if you were on the Zoom this morning.
Yes. Yes, I was.
Yeah, it's they've changed things, but the application is very, very involved, and it's also scored and rated. But we have a great record with DOH. We've got a record of CHFA because we perform, and all the projects that we've done. So, I think this would be a big help. That's
Harriet,
it.
do we have a sense of upfront costs on this yet?
No, not yet. But I'm hoping that we might not have to use an architect for this. But that's something I'll have to talk to who's ever giving me the proposals about. Because any of, let's say, to do the application, whatever it is, that's part of the HTC funding, so it'll come right off the top.
Okay.
So I'm hoping, again, I don't really want to have any costs incurred for us if possible. But based on the information we got today, if we don't need an architect, we just have to let them know and why. But some of the things that I talked about, I don't really think, right now, I don't think we need an architect, but that might be something that, to talk about. Because that's really where the expense comes in.
Okay, can you try to give us like a full week ahead of any meeting that we need to have so we can take a look at all the docs?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Okay. What else? I'm done for that part.
Okay, thank you. All right, congregate updates and the energy enhancements.
So there are currently 3 vacancies in the congregate. Our maintenance men are working on sanitizing those. The 3 vacancies have already have their new bathrooms in. So Daisy do have new residents coming in between May 15th and June 1st. I mean, her goal, and we had a meeting this morning, she was hoping to make it, but her daughter called her and she had to go home. She knows that her goal is to keep the congregate 100% occupied. We are having meetings with the residents. We've had meetings with them to talk about any of the things going on in the congregate. The next things that are coming up are the boiler projects, for the domestic hot water and also for the heat and changing the valves. We're also having another meeting with the residents on Friday to talk about that as well. June 1st, we plan on opening up the dining room. I think, believe it or not, there's only one congregant that has not gotten vaccinated, but we have it spaced enough so that everyone should be comfortable in there. We're also hoping to start entertainment, and now the weather's nice, do some more things outside. So that's pretty much with the congregate. I do want to let you know that the residents absolutely love PAC. Ron, who is there every day from like 6 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night, they are so happy with him. They already told Daisy that once the project's over, they want to have a pizza party for him with cake and all sorts of things, because they adore him. So, and he is doing everything he can, to make life comfortable for the residents and accommodate them any way possible. In terms
I have to agree with you, Harriet. I think Julio and his folks are doing just a bang up job for us. Trying to work around the, people still needing to live in those units, and he just seems like a really straight up kind of guy. Kent, I don't know what your experience is, but he seems to really be on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, they've been really, really good with communication. When they find something that is out of the ordinary, they get a hold of us as soon as possible and try to talk to Harriet and myself and the architect if needed. So they have been doing a very good job.
So having said that, this week they're working on 4 rehabs of the bathrooms, and they have 2 more to go. And the bathroom rehabs are finished. So we're hoping by the end of next week, they'll be done with that. And then May 3rd, we start the boilers. Yay, tomorrow it's gonna be in the 80s. Hopefully it'll continue like this through May and June, because there will not be any heat once we change out the new boiler for the heat. And then there's gonna be a day or so where the residents will not have any water. So they'll have, so we'll make sure they'll have bottled waters and do what we did before. But they are all aware of this. They understand. And again, Friday, we're going to meet with them to talk about it again to help them. We also have some heaters in case anyone needs, because it does get cold. We do have some residents that, love it at 100 degrees in their apartments. So we're going to make sure they have what they need.
Okay. Harriet, the apartment that was empty for so long and you were waiting for the possessions to be removed, has that been done?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, that's our removed. Daisy has somebody coming to that apartment on June 1st.
Okay. And do we have anybody lined up for the other vacancies or not yet?
Yes. Yes, she does.
Good, good. Okay. Do we have change orders to approve?
Yes. You also have unfinished business.
Oh, no, I know that, but I'm just looking where discussion of that. So do we need to approve these change orders now? Or is it somewhere else on the,
It's under new business.
under new business, got it,
Right.
right there, okay. Okay, all right, so unfinished business, the 45,000, which we thought came from a grant, but you're saying this is not grant money.
Correct.
Okay, and
So-
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, to preface that, we still have about $75,000 in our SSHP. We are still looking at adding additional radon. We did add additional radon mitigation units. We did add additional radon mitigation units to one building. I'm hoping to get the testing results by the end of this week. I believe the estimate for the worst case scenario is my understanding, and I'll have more information as we go further, that to mitigate all the radon and get everything, to that level 4 will be less than the $75,000 that we have for SHHP. But I'll have more information about that. The money that we do have to spend, as Jason and I have talked about in other meetings, is that if we don't spend it, we're going to have to give it back. Right, Jay?
Right, so as we brought up last time, the rider basically that's attached to the SSHP funding is basically saying you can't accumulate cash in essence. So we had projected, or I'm thinking that you as management and the board have to start discussing how you're going to spend about $45,000 by the end of the year.
And what are the limits again on that, on what we can use that funding for?
Actually, there's technically no limits as long as they're just within program requirements, which means they have to be used for the village units. So you can't give the money to somebody else.
And we can't use it for the congregate, right?
Right. You can't use it for the congregate.
Is it possible that the total radon mitigation that Harriet you were talking about could actually cost more than the 75,000?
I hope not. I already presented that. I discussed that with our contractor, and he said no. I said, give me the worst case scenario. It's
Okay,
still
so-
under 75,000.
Can we use the 40,000 that we have to spend first on the radon mitigation and then leave the $75,000, for later? I mean, is there the same requirement that we spend that 75,000 quickly?
So CHFA wants to close out this SSP application, okay? Because we've had it open for a while. There's been a lot of work on it. They know that what we're waiting for is the cost for the radon. So once we get that, they want to just, close it out. So no, you can't. That is a separate funding entity. So that's what we have to use that for.
Yeah, theoretically, if you had cost overruns, then yes. The problem is, and I wouldn't recommend it, is that the 75,000 has a more narrow scope, that it has to meet the original scope of work of the development. Whereas the 45,000 is a little bit more broader. It can be done for any costs that benefits the village in general. It doesn't have to be part of this improvement plan.
Okay, and I think you answered this, you may have answered this before, it's in the back of my mind. Is this on an accrual basis where
Yes.
we just have, okay, so we can just agree to the expense. We don't actually have to spend the cash by June 30th.
You don't have to cut the check. You do have to
Right.
incur the expense.
The
right?
expense, okay,
Yes.
okay.
So with the 45, I thought was going to be used for the radon, what are you looking to use the 45,000 for?
Well, we can perhaps rehab at least maybe 1.5 units, 2 units, additional units. I mean, the rehabbing anyway, we can add two more to that. I don't think 45,000 is going to cover doing all, we can use security cameras. That's another thing that, we might be able to use a 45,000 for. I don't know how many we could get, perhaps, all the parking lots might be able to get done. I'd like to put it back really for rehabbing because I would like to see every single resident in Stern Village have a beautiful rehab department with a walk-in shower. So I feel that any extra money we have should go right into rehabbing apartments.
I'm going to
Okay.
put Bill Chen on the spot. Bill, $45,000 for security cameras. Any idea what that would purchase?
That would probably, well, I guess they need to have a security server there as well, so that would eat a good chunk of that
Okay.
funding. But
So
let me-
there are no working cameras outside in the parking areas now, correct? Karen?
Well, we do. We have in the second circle is monitored.
That one,
And,
okay.
right, and in front of the congregate is monitored, and a little bit, if you're looking at the congregate, a little bit on the side, going around the loop.
So what still would need security cameras? Up by the community room, that lot there?
Right. If we got, I think all the parking areas would be nice to have.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Bill.
I think just to add on to that a little bit, and I know this is the first year of kind of dealing with this, and it might seem a little rushed to kind of have to do it within the next 2 months, is that every year you should plan on, as part of the budgetary process, kind of what your that year's capital needs or capital goals are to spend these excess cash and budget for it. And we had budgeted about 60,000, and you basically came right into that. You happened to already buy the tractor, which cost a chunk of that. That leaves this 45. And then again, I think that way we don't have to have this conversation in April. We would need updates, obviously, to make sure where we're kind of landing. But that way you could kind of have a more broader plan as far as, how long it's going to take, how many units you can do each year, kind of where that kind of gets you, right? And whether or not cameras meet this year or next year,
Right.
or half this year, half next year, right? I mean, it's not that you're all of a sudden in July not going to have any more money. That the goal is that you're going to continuously generate about at least $5,000 a month, right? It just so happens that we're now at April and we need to do the 45, right? Well, we're almost at May, right?
Okay, so we really can't wait till June then, because we meet at the end of June. And if Harriet needs to be able to sign a contract and commit us to that expense so you can book the accrual, then we can't wait until June. We need to have a vote in May. That's what it sounds like to me.
Agreed, yes.
Okay. So maybe we need to come up with some like dollar amounts or something, Harriet, with,
Sure.
And then,
Things that, yeah, things that you would want to spend that 45,000 on, and then we can discuss in May where the
Sure.
money goes and vote in
Yeah.
May. Does that work, Jason, if we vote in May?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's up to whoever contractor you go with that they can start, in June, which I don't see why, but again, that's really outside my area of expertise.
Well, even at least to have a contract with them,
Well, they
well,
needed to have started the work.
you need to have started the work. Okay.
if I may.
Yes.
So we
yes.
already have the HTCC funds, right? And we already have Millennium, doing that work. We can just add a couple more units, and use our funding for that. So we can use the same people that are already on site because everything's being bought. So he
And
just add
45,000 would rehab 2 more apartments.
probably about 2. But I'll put together different options and the cost for that.
Let's say,
Well, I'm just concerned that if we wait until the May meeting to vote on this and the work can't start, should we be deciding at this meeting what to
Well-
use that money for?
Well, the work is already in progress for the other units. So all they have to do is really add on, some more units. And they've been kind of doing
No, I
that.
get that if that's what we decide to do with that money.
Right.
But if we were to say, we want to, put security cameras, and we don't vote on that until May, you may not have work started in time to do it. So it looks like we're headed towards a decision to add 2 more units on. And unless any other commissioner has an objection to that, I don't see why we couldn't make a motion to add 2 more units to that, and then you've got that money covered and you know where you're going with it. Does that make sense, or am I
Yeah,
Sounds good. Let's vote.
having a bad day even more?
yeah. And you know what, Harriet, if you want to go ahead and get the quote and the thing on the security cameras, maybe if we already know we're going to have approximately 60 grand next year, maybe we just commit early.
Yeah.
Or within whatever monies we have already piled up in that overage. And then we don't have to wait until June of 2022.
Right. Okay.
So
Okay.
can I have a motion then to commit this $45,000 to the rehab of additional units?
So moved.
A
Laurel.
second?
Charlene seconds.
Okay. Any more discussion on it or any other thoughts? I just think this way it's taken care of. We're done. Never know if you're going to have a blizzard on our May meeting and
God.
we have to cancel, or I may be in a padded cell somewhere by May. Okay, so by unanimous consent, we'll make this motion. Everybody good? All
Yep.
right. Saves Barbara from having to call the roll all the time, so. All right. The smoking policy. There's some things in there that concerned me. And I was supposed to send everybody a link to the,
DPH.
thank you, yes. And I couldn't send it. So I think at this point, there were a couple of things in there. One of them was the medical marijuana piece. That concerns me because if you are using medical marijuana, it's because you are a cancer patient or you have some incredible pain that they can't control, and the medical marijuana controls it. I don't want to make people have to stand outside in the cold and the rain to take medication. So I have a concern about that. Harriet?
So to me, smoking is smoking is smoking. I agree with you about taking medical marijuana for people that need it, but it does come in other forms. The issue is that some people smoke in their bathrooms. The smoke from the bathroom goes into the person behind them or in front of them. We had an issue with someone who's actually smoking medical marijuana, well, I don't know, was smoking pot in his bathroom. The resident called me up and said, I have this funny smell. I don't know what it is, but it's very bothersome. So, I just said, again, and this is also, I think, fair housing too. You want to smoke pot somewhere else. But again, for its medical marijuana, I know it comes in many different forms.
Mhm.
That's my feeling on it. And that's also, talking to people and looking at, talking to our attorneys and looking at what other people are doing, smoking.
Okay, well, the link that Laurel sent, I would like everybody to kind of look at, because their recommendation is 25 feet, not 50 feet, which keeps people out of the parking lots and so on. But I just would like you to look at their suggestions, and it is a requirement, correct, Laura, when you
Yeah,
look at it?
the homepage of the Department of Public Health does state uncategorically it is a federal mandate.
So there's a lot of links in there, and there's a lot of suggestions they have, and did not get it till yesterday. And I really would like the commissioners to have an ability to look at it. I also was a little concerned with the height of the fines on it. So I really did not, I would not like to vote on that at this meeting. I would like to carry it over for a month. I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts after reading it.
Those PDFs embedded on the DPH website are really informative.
Yeah.
They give a lot of sort of nice templates and suggestions, both for, putting tenants on notice, but also what, as an owner of a building, some of the things we need to think about, the signage, whatever. So I think it's probably worth just tabling it for another month, and then absolutely coming back with an agreement on how we handle this, because I just see it on a number of levels, even with the insurance. I don't know, but we probably are telling the insurance company we are a no smoking facility. And hopefully we're getting a discount because of that. So, I think it behooves us to make sure we are a no smoking facility, one way or the other.
Laura, if I may. So
Sure.
we say no smoking facility, residents, we do have smoking areas outside.
Okay, yeah, so.
We can't smoke in their
Okay.
apartments, yes.
Yeah. And I'm sure the insurance company is just more concerned about, the units burning down because somebody fell asleep with a lit,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so do you need a motion or anything, Kathy, or you just?
I need a motion to table, and once it's made and seconded, it's not debatable. So if there are other comments to be made, a motion to table is not, you can't discuss. So unless somebody has something to say, yes, I need a motion to table.
Okay, I'm so moved.
And a second? Suzanne, thank you. Okay, by unanimous consent to table till next meeting?
Yes.
We good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, the security deposit issue.
So if I may, when residents pass away, the family, if there is one, has a difficult time paying any rent that is due. This is the same for residents if they go to a nursing home. We do have a moving out process, which includes an inspection of a unit prior to the resident vacating the unit. If a unit is found to be damaged in any way, we would keep their security deposit, assuming that the board, agrees that we should have one. The security deposit should be I believe, 1 month's rent for Stern Village only. We would need a separate bank account, and I believe the current interest rate is 0.05%. So a lot of this really comes down to Jason, who, it's added work for him because we're going to have to figure out a way to separate the security deposits. And again, for us tracking it as well, which is a problem. So my question is, Jason, if we go with a security deposit and we have to give them their interest, do we do it yearly?
Have to.
You do it yearly. We give it back to the residents yearly, not when they move out. Oh, yearly.
Correct. Well, you get what you have given since when they move out as well.
Right.
So you
I
have to
understand
calculate
that. We
it
give them
both
that,
ways.
but we don't give them that plus interest. If they move out, we just give them yearly their interest. So the interest is what, a quarter, a month or so?
Well, it's whatever you earn, which is 0.05, or a minimum of whatever the federal rate is at the time, which again is about that. I think it's 0.06, but so you could theoretically have a cost because there is a de minimis amount that the state's required that you pay. But it has been below what the banks have been paying, but the banks obviously change more often than the state regs do.
Well, I got this from TD Bank the other day, so that's why I put last week. That's why I put it in there.
Do other housing authorities take security deposits? Do you know?
Yes.
They do.
Yes.
Okay.
I know the state program, which is what Village is in, is one of the last ones. Actually, congregate's probably even farther back than the state to adopt this, because before the last couple of years, you were required to give it back after a year, and they didn't want to deal with that, so they never used it. But families have always fit. To my recollection, I would guess probably 95% of housing authorities with family units have been doing security deposits. Those tend to have bigger damages, et cetera. It's never really had as much of a need for the elderly because they pay. The family, they may not even pay their rent throughout. So you have bigger issues here. It's usually just that move out, right? But yes, I would, and I do audit a lot of housing authorities in the state. Better than 50% are doing security deposits on the elderly program itself.
Okay. There's a couple of things that I would be concerned about, and I would want to somehow put in this process. One of them is, and I told my kids when they were in college and when they rented an apartment, that to take photos before they move in of anything that, this faucet's broken, or there's a hole in the wall behind this door from a doorknob, to make sure that they have documentation of the condition of the unit when they move in, so that when you get to the end and are going to leave and someone says, well, it's going to cost me this to fix the hole behind the door, I'm going to fix me this for the refrigerator handle is loose. I would like a couple of things in there. One, documentation of the unit prior to them moving in, and also somewhere in this policy to say damages outside of normal wear and tear. Somebody lives there for a year, fine. Somebody lives there for 25 years, there's normal wear and tear that is going to require maintenance. So those were just two things. If you're going to do a policy with the security deposit, that I would like included. Harriet?
So Kathy, if I may, we also have a process for moving in, and we give residents a whole list of things to look for, before they move in, to make sure everything is check, 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 check. We do a walkthrough with them, and then they have to sign it. If there's a problem, we have to fix it, obviously. But so we do have that sort of documentation, but we can also add it for this as well.
They're not big units. It's easy enough to take a picture of something that, a crack in the wall or a hole in a burn in the carpet or something. I just want to see them protected against something that might have been damaged before they moved in, and also that normal wear and tear is not something that would result in keeping someone's security deposit.
Right. But I think the bulk of this is really for, unfortunately, as I said, people that don't have the means to pay, if they leave for a nursing home or unfortunately they pass away. So that to me would be, the reason for this.
Yeah, Jason, again, just to add in real quick. Most of this, so you're gonna have a move-in inspection form. It's basically gonna go through the process, and that already exists. Where basically they're signing that they're receiving a unit there that they accepted. It's acceptable to them. And if there are issues, it's noted kind of, there was a crack here or whatever.
Okay.
The part of that already exists. I agree, it's a good comment that we're saying everything above reasonable wear and tear. But it's also important to note that while I agree with putting damage provisions in there to protect yourselves, I think that the biggest reason for this is not really to control against the risk of damages, because you really haven't really experienced a lot of that. It's to make sure you're collecting on that last month's rent.
On that last month's rent. I get it.
Not that you don't want to have both in.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you only have 1 month and they haven't paid their last month's rent, you're not getting the damages anyways, right? Because it's only so much you're going to get.
Yeah. So can I make a motion that we approve the concept of security deposits for new tenants, and that we discuss the actual policy implementation of, the damage versus the last month versus the whatever? I mean, I think as long as we know you can start collecting security deposits from any new, renters. And then I guess, maybe at a next meeting or something, if you can put together an actual kind of, it'll go first to paying off the rent, it'll go next to paying off the damages or whatever, I don't know.
I have a quick question first. Harriet, given the applications that are coming in, is it your impression that most people will be able to pay a security deposit, or is this going to be one that there's going to have to be waivers on for some folks and not others, or?
So I haven't seen it, the new applications that are coming in, because Heather's pretty much handling all that. And we're not at that point yet because of more, but usually when we do a tour, show someone an apartment, the first thing they say to me, do you require a security deposit?
Okay.
Because people are used to that. If you rent, an apartment, or you rent a condo or what have you, you always have security deposits.
Thanks.
And we're only talking about a 1 month, right?
Correct. Oh, yeah.
Not first and last or in between or whatever.
Yeah, speaking again, you can't, the program, especially for elderly individuals, they won't allow more than 1 month. So even if you wanted more than 1 month, technically you can't.
Right. And it's for the village only. We're not for the parent.
I was going to add that too.
What do you want to do?
I know Harriet says village only, and I'm just pointing out, not to be the bad guy, but I don't know why you want to do both. The other side too is if we did do or decided on congregate or Stern Center, I would only recommend you would only do the rental side. So it wouldn't be the full 1250, it would only be the 425 that rent, or whatever the rent's going to be. 450.
Yeah, I agree with Jason on that. That's fine. As long as it's just the base rent, the rental side.
Okay, so we have a motion. Go ahead, Jason.
And one last point, if for congregate, if you guys are gonna approve congregate, it would be the residence portion. So if they're subsidized, but their portion's only $100, well, then their security deposit can only be $100 as well. Wouldn't be the full 425 for them.
Right.
Okay, I'm not comfortable putting the congregate in this motion. I don't object to discussing it in another meeting, but the motion Laurel made to approve the concept of 1 month security deposit in the village with the policy to be approved at a later date is on the floor. So I think if we have a second on that one. There's only two of you. Okay, Suzanne says, okay. Then I think I'm more comfortable dealing with the village first, and then the congregate at a later date. I think there's just a little more discussion to have on the congregate. So unless somebody has other thoughts on that motion to approve the concept of 1 month security deposit on the village for new residents If you don't have any other comment, then I'll ask for an approval by unanimous consent again. Everybody good?
Yep.
Yep.
Going swimmingly, okay. And then Harriet, for the next meeting, we can put on discussion of the congregate, and then we can get all the details how that would work at the congregate, because their rent is separate from their services.
And I think
All
on
right,
that
what else?
one, we probably need help with the wording,
Yes.
because Jason, you seem to have a very specific way of wording that it's the residents, blah, blah, blah.
Portion of the
Portion of rent, yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Would that be under, that's still under unfinished business for the congregate? That'd be new business.
It would be new business because it isn't on this agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so we've approved that. All right, so we can go on to new business. I'm sorry. The change orders and consideration of motion to approve change orders for the congregate energy efficiency project. And that, I'm assuming, is this.
Ken,
Yes.
you're up. Sorry.
I'm assuming you all have the log that I put together. Harriet, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, we all
Okay.
have, yes.
So there's basically, we can talk about any of these, but there really is 4 that we need to act on so that we can just have everything moving forward, and we have approval to do things like that. There are a couple that are on hold until we know where we stand on unit access and final units. But obviously, as Harriet mentioned before, we only have a half a dozen or so units to still get into and remove the tub and the walls. So we should know in the next 2 weeks where we stand as far as unknowns. But I think, going through these couple that we need to do keeps our construction moving and keeps the budget going. At this point, all of these, we are still well within our contingency balance, and we're holding a significant amount of that contingency hanging out there, basically for boiler unknowns, because that's going to start next week. I had to look at the calendar. So the first item, and I don't know, Harriet, you can step in at any moment if you want to add anything to this, just let me know. But the first thing that we need to do is that we have a change order for additional blocking that needs to go in for 10 units for the shower seat. And this is basically the shower blocking needed to be relocated because the seat that was originally spec'd and that was originally approved in a previous change order really didn't work well, and we were concerned with safety of one. It didn't stay up very well because it was hitting one of the grab bars, as well as it was just very large within the unit. So the first 10 units that we didn't have the blocking necessarily in the appropriate place for the new seat that we've changed. At this point, everybody's very happy with the new seat. We have about 20 of them in, plus or minus. I don't know off the top of my head where we stand on exactly the seats, because they're kind of going back and finishing some of them. All of the residents are very happy with this new seat, but this means that we need to open up a hole in the hallway to put additional block in. The cost is about $150 to $200 a unit, so the total change order is $1,650. And so the contractor, they actually sort of wanted to start it like yesterday, but they need your approval for that one. Harry, do we want to stop at each change order and discuss, or do you want me to go through all 4?
Kathy, what would you rather do?
I think I'd rather approve them one at a time.
Okay.
Thinks it would be better to do them
So
all at the end.
I have a question, Kent. So blocking and installation was included in PCO5.
Correct.
This is now something that came up after we approved.
Yes, the original seat, the blocking needed to be on the long side of the shower, if that's a simple way to put it. Like, think of a tub as a rectangle. There's a long side and a short side. The original blocking went into the long side. that the new seat that came in is a much smaller seat. The other one just took up a ton of the unit and had no room for anybody to stand or for anybody to do what needs to be done. The new seat, the blocking goes on the short end of the wall. The first 10 units that we'd already put blocking in and already put the shower panel in, doesn't have the blocking on the short end of the wall. We could install the seat sideways in those first 10, save a little money, but it's not right. It's not the best way to do it, and it wouldn't be consistent across the unit. So really the best way is to put blocking in the short end of the walls on those first 10 that we did and fix them and put that seat in correctly. And that's where it comes down to. So the others, all of the other units have the blocking. This is only for the first 10. Everything else is within that change order.
Okay, and the 1650 covers that entire ripping the wall out,
Yes.
putting in the blocking, and then repair.
The only thing it doesn't, it will put in, it'll do all of the, it'll fix all the wall on one side of it, won't have final paint. Because we're hoping we can paint more of the wall with additional contingency is what it comes down to.
Right.
I think it was basically patch the paint, but it's going to look like, it's not going to look good. The idea is that later there will be a change order to paint as much as we can in the corridors, which I think everyone agrees needs painting.
I will agree with that.
We'll debate color later.
Not gonna be yellow.
Kathy, I'd like to make a motion to approve PCO 6 for $1,650.
Second by Charlene.
Okay. Any more discussion or we're good? Unanimous consent to approve this
Sure.
motion? Yes, thank you.
Okay, the next one, number 7 on that list, we can skip because we're waiting for all the units to be done to finalize what that number is on the vent issues, which you guys have been aware of that. That's been happening throughout the units. Number 8, which is the time extension. This is a much easier change order because there's $0 involved. So yeah, we like those. This is really a contractual issue because we deferred the boiler from a fall installation to a spring installation. The contract needs to be extended through June 30th. Otherwise, in theory, they will not make their, I believe May 1 is the, in theory, end of their construction contract timeframe. And we don't want them to have any negative cost effects. It is not the contractor's fault that we postponed this. It was partly weather and partly COVID because it was kind of crazy in the fall. We're lucky that they technically, per the contract, could have asked for additional general requirements to the contract. They are not. Again, PAC is being very, very reasonable. And so this basically just covers their butt and our butt that we have an extension to the 30th. If for some reason they can't finish between starting next week and June 30th, which I can't imagine they can't, we will revisit this at the beginning of June. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve PCO 8.
Second by Suzanne. Thank you, Suzanne. Any other discussion at all? By unanimous consent, are we good?
Yep.
Okay.
Wow. So good so far, right? The next one
Yeah, we're good
is,
so far.
the next one is an odd, it's a good and bad. When we did the pre-boiler walkthrough, which means we dragged all of the subcontractors to the boiler room a few weeks ago and kind of walked through what they need to do, the means and methods, what they need to do. We identified there's a broken electrical conduit just outside the door to the boiler room. These are electric lines that go to the garage and some other things within the building, mostly common space, I believe. Because it's broken, as soon as the building inspector shows up to do any inspection, he's going to say, this needs to be fixed. It's a health safety hazard. Water could get into this conduit, which is outside. Because it goes into the boiler room and it makes it easier to set things up when they put the new electrical boxes in. it would be better to move the conduit a little bit. So this is kind of a good thing. We're able to use the grant money to relocate this and fix the code issue. Relocating it makes it easier for them and more efficient in the boiler room when they do it, and it'll be better in the future because the original way it was done is just weird. It could have stayed, but because it's broken and we have to fix it, instead of the congregate putting it out of operations, we can do it through our grant, and then we can move it and put it in the right place that makes all of us happier in the future. And that's $2,300.
Okay. I make a motion to approve PCO 9 for $2,373.70.
Second for Charlene.
Second by Charlene, okay. Any more discussion on this, or are we good to
So,
Harriet?
I have a question, Ken. That's a change request number 9, correct? Replace existing broken conduit near boiler room?
Correct.
Okay,
Sorry.
so
number
I
9.
have the change request, the total is $2,723.70. That's what I have on what you sent.
What am I looking at?
I might have the wrong number.
$1,373.70.
Give me 1 second.
You sent that, we have pictures.
Yeah, that's not the same number on that summary.
No, it's different.
Oh, so what?
I have
Oh, you know what you did? It looks like you-
2373.
Did I flip flop 2 numbers on the summary?
Yeah, yes. looks
Oh,
like-
then we should be approving the 273 number.
Right,
I can't.
sorry about
everybody's
that.
that's
frozen.
on the section, the change request.
I'm looking at the PCO NCO log. So
Yeah,
that's incorrect?
Give me 1 sec. My computer doesn't like me right now. Yeah, it's supposed to be 272370. I'm sorry.
Ken, can you repeat that? Because you're in a,
Yep, it's 2,723.70.
Okay, who's the Roberts Rules person? Do I just make an amendment to the motion?
Laurel, you just remove your, withdraw your motion, and we'll make a new one.
Okay, I withdraw my motion concerning PCO 9.
And then just make the new motion with the new amount. Makes life
Okay.
easier.
I hope I have the amount correct now. I make a motion that we approve PCO 9 in the amount of $2,723.70. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and a second? You're all frozen on me. Is somebody seconding?
I'll second.
Is that
Yes,
Suzanne?
yes, sorry.
Okay, Suzanne second, okay. We do it by unanimous consent again? or
Yes.
any
Yes.
object- Okay. All right.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
and
I'm
the-
getting like every third syllable sometimes here.
So the last one that needs to be approved is really not actually a change order right now. It's really a pre-approval for you so that we can move forward to accept a not to exceed approved by the board. In order to do the hot water heater part of the boiler replacement, we're trying to do the complete hot water heater exchange, which is for the domestic hot water, so that for their showers, for their kitchen sinks, their bathroom sinks, we need to, when we remove the hot water tank, they will not have hot water. The time to replace it could be more than 1 full day, but they do believe that with overtime, they don't think they're going to need more, but they're worried if they do need more, they want approval if they have to pay overtime to get it done in one day so that by the end of the day, the next morning, everybody has hot water. And it's only out for one day. So what we ask the contractor and subs to do is provide a change order for a maximum of 8 hours of overtime in case they can't get there and they can finish it in one day. We don't think they're going to do that, but what we're looking to do is get the board to approve $2,693.41 of a maximum time, so they do not go over 8 hours as far as the change order. They are guaranteeing that they will finish it within that 8 hours. Anything, if they have to go more than that, that's on them. Okay, so this is a maximum that we can't exceed. And they fully feel that they're going to do this in 2 to 3 extra hours at worst case scenario.
Kent, what is that $1,346.71 on your law?
That's more my projection. I think that's based on 4 hours. So I think that's really my projection when I look at contingency, that I don't think we're going to fully spend 2,600. I think it's really going to be 1,300 at the end of the day. It could be 0, which would be better. I'm kind of splitting hairs. It doesn't, I mean, at this point, the contingency level, I could have just put 26, but the contractor and the sub all really feel this is going to be a less than 4 hour activity on top of the full day of work that they're doing. And that the 8 hours is really just to cover their basis in case it goes long. Because with a boiler, you never know. They could break a pipe, something could go wrong. You just never know what could happen.
Okay. So there's no PCO number assigned to that yet?
No, because there's not, we can't finalize a PCO. We just have an estimate and a not to exceed until officially in the contract. You can't change it with a PCO until it's done, until you have a real number. And we could do a PCO, and the contract would love us to do a PCO of 2693, but we do not want to approve that. This is just a not to exceed number. And this is really just so that, you know, we can move forward and you're aware.
Okay.
I think I'd object to the number if I weren't aware of your confidence in this company and how happy you are with their work. So I do not have a problem.
And to add to that, this is the same plumbing subcontractor that has done lots of work within your buildings. So they're very aware of this building.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We don't have the motion on the floor yet, though, so I need you to make a motion.
Okay, so I make a motion, I'm not exactly sure how to word this, to approve on a not to exceed basis possible overtime costs for the hot water heater replacement.
Mhm.
And the not to exceed total is $2,693.41.
Correct.
Barbara, I could not
Great
read
job.
that if I tried, so I hope you got it.
Can I have a second to Laurel's wonderfully worded motion?
Second by Charlene.
Second by Charlene. Thank you, Charlene. Any further discussion? By unanimous consent again?
Yes.
We good? Okay. All right. Okay. You're good,
Thank
Ken?
you very much for that explanations. That was
Yes.
really well done.
Yes. And if you look through the rest of that, a lot of these are things that we're just talking through and concerns. We don't know what the numbers are and that they will be negotiated, but they don't need to be approved yet. And nothing that we may actually not find anymore. So, so we'll just keep plugging away.
Okay.
Have you guys done enough of a look-see at that boiler that, honestly, that's the thing nightmares are made of, I think, with a building that old and with a boiler, you know, good Lord.
I mean, that's why we did the pre-meeting, is to get the engineer all of the subs, get them working together. The subs are very much in connection of what needs to be done and how they're going to coordinate and how they're going to work through this. So, unless when they pull something out, all of a sudden there's a surprise, but they're basically removing everything and building it again. So, but it is still an unknown, and we just need to manage through. So.
Okay. Harriet, let me ask you a question about the heaters. Are we going to have to get one for everybody, or?
No.
Okay, great. We're just kind of hoping the weather kind of works with us. And, okay.
We have, a while back, one of our vendors donated 222 blankets to Stern Village residents. We used to have, and we asked anyone if you want a blanket, we gave them out to any new residents, what have you. So we have lots and lots and lots of blankets if anyone needs blankets. Boxes of blankets.
Okay.
And even though you won't have heat for this period of time, the hallway system, which is a split heat system that does the air conditioning and heat, the halls will still be heated, so that the mass of the building will still be getting some heat, even when we're down. So, and the hope is that's why we're waiting until May. Obviously it sucks there has been some cold nights the last couple of weeks, but things should, hopefully, I'm no weatherman. I don't think anybody is, so hopefully it'll get, we'll be okay. And if we have to get more electric heaters, then we'll manage that if that happens.
Yeah, I think we have like 4 or 5, so already.
If they leave their doors open, would they be able to warm up their apartments if they needed to at all?
It would help. Just the mass of the center building. It's going to be cold against, if we get a cold, windy day or night, whatever, along the glass, the outside walls will chill down because that's where the heat source is. And that's just what you're going to, but as long as it gets into the 60s, then it should maintain that heat. It's a big building with a lot of mass, so it should hold heat all night.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
We voted on that last motion, correct?
Yes.
We're good on that? Okay. All right. So nothing more from you on change orders. I have like every hat I've ever worn on tonight. So I'm just, okay. So next then, a discussion of authorizing Harriet Polanski, Executive Director, to approve change orders based on a monetary amount and consideration of motion to approve.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, and I'm going to read this. So in order to expedite the current renovation work under the Congregate Energy Efficient Project, I move that the board allow Executive Director Harriet Polanski, after consultation with and written agreement from Kent Lewis, to approve change orders on this project of less than $2,000 up to a maximum combined total of $5,000 per month. Change orders over $2,000 or those coming in after the $5,000 limit is reached must be presented to and approved by the board prior to commencement of the work. The board will expedite review and approval of those change orders at emergency meetings called for that purpose only.
Could I have a second on that?
Second by Charlene.
Okay, now we can discuss it. So in a nutshell, you're looking to allow Harriet to approve change orders after consulting with Kent, making sure there's agreement that this is a change order that's necessary and needed, limiting it to
Yes.
$2,000 per change order, up to $2,000, and cutting it off at if we hit $5,000 at a month.
Right. I kind of feel like between Harriet and Kent, they have a really good handle on, kind of what's going on. They work really well with Julio. Harriet is our formal person. Kent, we are paying to help us with the intricacies of this. So I think as a team, they would be a great team to be able to, that we have assurance that the change orders they are approving are legit and needed, and that gives them enough flexibility, I hope, on these, a $500 change order should not stop this project. A $1,500 change order should not stop this project from, going forward. And honestly, I don't want to have to do emergency meetings for $500. So I would very much like the board to consider that we give Harriet and Kent the flexibility of, acting on our behalf to keep the project moving.
With the knowledge that anything more than the 2,000 or anything exceeding 5,000 in a month, that we could call a quick meeting, an emergency meeting to approve so that we don't stop the project dead in its tracks till the end of the month meeting.
Yeah, and I think if it's on an emergency basis, we don't need the formal notification as much, I think. So we could just call the meeting, just work on that one issue, vote on it and move on.
And I didn't check, I will check with the town attorneys tomorrow. I booked a meeting with 24-hour notice. So that would give a.
Okay, I think you were saying something about we don't need to do the 24-hour notice. You started buffering again.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Let me turn the video, take the video off. Sometimes that helps. I will check with the town attorneys tomorrow. I believe an emergency meeting can be called with 24-hour notice. Normally you need to post in 48 hours and I believe it's a 24-hour. So we get a message that we call a meeting for the next day. Was that clearer?
Yes.
Clearly, I should have stayed in my office. I have a meeting immediately after this. I was trying not to be there till 9 o'clock. So I came home, but this is not working well. Okay, any other discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? Kent, are you okay?
Harry and Kent, are you guys okay with this?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's fairly typical for most executive directors and people, so that you have so that you can, especially these little things. We find, that one of them was the drain on one of the toilets wasn't connected right when the building was first built, and they had to chop out some concrete. We're looking at a few $100s of labor and work to do that. But last thing, we want to make a couple phone calls and emails and say, okay, just keep moving, because we do not want that bathroom to be not using. I mean, we're so close to the end now that we've kind of already danced through this stuff, but it's a good way that we can just keep things moving without bombarding you with emergency emails at last second, when really we need to tell the contractor within hours to just keep going, so.
As long as you're both comfortable with that plan and those limits, I think we're fine with it. Suzanne, you're okay with it? Okay, so by unanimous consent, we will approve that motion. Thank you for writing that up, Laurel.
Sure.
Okay, base rent increase of $15 for the congregate and consideration of motion to approve. Can I have a motion?
Okay.
We technically need to make the motion and second it to have discussion on it. I was kind of lax on the other ones.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Suzanne, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Harriet.
So we've talked about this. The Department of Housing oversees the Henry Stern Center congregate. The total rent for congregate consists of the base rent, which is currently $425, and core services, which is currently $800. The base rent is for the actual apartment. The core services consist of a daily meal, security guards, light housekeeping, some of Paulette Mack's resident services, and some of Daisy's Taurus's congregate management functions. And the DOH provides rent subsidy based on income. Jason and I, we've talked about this, and Jason and I believe that we need to increase the base rent is necessary. The current does not have sufficient reserves. The DOH actually directed us to increase the base rent for next fiscal year in order to have our budget approved. Our expenses have increased, and we've had significant vacancy loss. So we've had meetings with the resident because there are procedures. We had 2 meetings that were held on April 6th this year, and we spoke to the residents about it. We told them exactly what was going on. They had a couple of comments. Pretty much one resident wanted to know if they can get a voucher to help with the rent. They cannot because the DOH provides subsidies, and any additional vouchers would not be applicable. One wanted to know if there'd be another rent increase in July of 2022, and I explained that I cannot comment on that at that time. And then that was about it for any questions that had to do with the rent increase. But, again, we've had pretty much orders from DOH, and that if we don't do something, they're not going to pass our budget. We have to get our budget approved by DOH in order to get the subsidies. So I know at one point Jason wanted to go higher than that, but I don't think that we can do that at this point.
When would that take effect? When would that rent increase take effect? I'm sorry?
July 1st.
July 1st, okay.
So I'm fairly concerned about the level of our reserve account. I think it's $9,000, something like that.
Mm.
So one of the reasons I've been a little crazy about monitoring these change orders is that if we end up lasting through the contingency and we actually have to come out of pocket for any of these, we don't have a very deep pocket from which to pull any money. And I don't want to obviously I've been like a crazy girl about, borrowing from the village anymore. So, I think we need to do something. The fact that there's $4,000 in the checking account as of March 30th was, a little bit of an eye opener. So, to operate a place of that size, we have $4,000 in cash. We have $9,000 in reserves. Frankly, I don't see we have a choice. The facility is simply not paying for itself at this point. And believe me, I feel very badly that anybody has to pay additional money, but these numbers speak loud and clear, to me at least, that that facility is just not bringing in enough cash for, to cover its operating.
And Jason speaking, if I may add, as we brought up, or as I brought up last time, only the quote unquote, as defined by DOH, the most neediest are the ones that are going to get hit with an increase. Or I'm sorry, the most neediest are the ones that are not going to get hit by an increase. The ones that can afford it are the ones that would get hit. We had a schedule. I was looking for the number. I think it was 10 people that would affect.
Will be affected by the increase.
Correct.
And then, of course, any new tenants, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to make a mention that we approve the base rent increase of $15 for the congregate effective July 1st, 2021.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Charlene, okay. Any more discussion on it? I think until we build up enough reserve, I mean, almost everything in there is going to be new eventually anyway, so I will feel better about how little money is in that account, because if it's not being repaired now, and I think that, Harry, was the reason for that letter. And I know there was a response when Jean Rabineau was on. She spoke to whoever wrote that letter. And it had something to do with, we hadn't updated what was going on as far as repairs and boilers and air conditioning and the whole bit. So if there's some report that needs to get, that needs to be made to them, showing that all of this stuff that was so broken before is now fixed and we don't need this excessive reserve, maybe we need to get that report to them so that they're not hitting us again in a year thinking that the building is in disrepair. So, you know, I'd like to make sure they have correct information as to the condition of the building going forward. So I have a motion and a second to approve the $15 increase for the congregate. If there's no objection, we'll approve by unanimous consent. Everybody good? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then the increase of $10 for Stern Village to the base rent, affecting base rents under $500, and a 1% increase for calculating the adjusted gross income for those currently at 27%. I need a motion to discuss this. I don't know if I'm frozen or nobody's making a motion.
I was hoping somebody else could.
You're doing great, Laurel. Keep it up.
Someone can just say so moved. You don't have to repeat it. Someone can just say so moved and I'll take that as your motion.
Okay, so moved.
Okay. Somebody want to second our so moved?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Charlene.
Effective date on this one also July 1st?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we have increased expenses, there's inflation. That's why I want to increase the base rent. As Kathy pointed out, it will not affect residents paying a base rent of $500 or $550. Base rent has never been increased since I've been here. It's been stratified over the years, depending on the year you lease an apartment. New residents coming in are paying $500 or $550 per month. We had meetings with our residents. They all understand. Most understand that it's only $10. Again, we haven't increased it. The people that are paying the 110 and 125 base rent, you know, were probably the ones that had most of the questions. They asked about being grandfathered in, and I explained that the term grandfathered in does not apply. CHA does not recognize grandfathered in. The formula for rent is the greater of 30% of adjusted gross income or base rent. So the norm is 30%. The people with the lowest base rent is 27. So that's why we said let's incrementally increase it to 28%. We had meetings about this. I had meetings with the residents. We had meetings on call meetings, and there really wasn't a lot of issues with this that residents had. They all seem to understand, you know, the rationale for this. You know, COVID expenses are high. We had to sanitize a lot of apartments. Hopefully that will decline over the year. But again, you know, the good thing is that, as we talked about, any monies that we have in extra will be going right back to support the village. So everyone also understands that as well. So I think that we really need to do this.
So are we being pushed by the state to, or was it just at the congregate that they were kind of saying, you know, do or die? Is it the same way for the village?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's a little different for the village. They are aware of it. I just speak to them that, you know, this is something that we're thinking of. I want to present this to the board. And, you know, once you approve it, there's a whole bunch of paperwork that goes along for them for CHFA to approve it. But again, as long as it's within their scope, we're not increasing. You can't increase more than $50, and you know that's unheard of. That's not something that I think that we would ever do.
Do you have a sense of how our rent now compares to, you know, Danbury, I don't know, other towns maybe our size? Jason, do you have any
Base rents
Yes.
or
Yes.
total rents? It's tough on total rents because they're all based on tenant incomes, right? So it doesn't matter what you set it at. They're
Right.
going to pay X amount no matter what you say, basically, as long as it's up to the base. I'll say your competing areas actually have gone above 30%. They've gotten special approvals. They're up, I think, I don't want to say on the who they are on the air here, but I think as high as 33%. And those are surrounding towns. So you are below on those. And at the 110 and 135, I'd like to think there's not many left or any that really have still keep tenants at that level. We talk about this term of grandfathered in. That is more of a delayed transition to the new rents. It's not a permanent. So really the goal in my mind is to start trying to get everybody as much towards the center as you can without kind of overburdening during the process. Certainly for those that are at 28% or 27 really now, they've basically been paying less than everybody else as a percent of their income for years now, right?
So we're a bargain.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And it sounds like we're on the pretty low side of rents for other comparable facilities.
Yes. And I think if we're going to hopefully take the position that you have a plan where you're putting in, you know, you're reinvesting your dollars into the units. I mean, because I think that's where obviously the residents see it the most, right? And that's really where you protect yourself. And my mind is all about protecting and kind of, you know, keeping yourselves in a good financial position to kind of weather any change. You know, you've been fortunate, you know, especially with the village, right? That you really haven't had a need, like a necessity to do it out of like an emergency that congregate kind of is in. Here, it's more prudent management, right? In my mind. And equitable.
We have so many residents that pay excess of base. So they're not affected by this at all. And some are actually, now that I'm doing some of the rent recertifications, a lot have gone down. Again, it's all based on income and medical expenses.
The important point of that too, just so you all understand, is that since you do have a lot of people that are paying excess, you can't depend on those dollars, right? If those residents leave, the next ones could be paying 500. You have a couple that are paying 1,000. And again, they want to be here. So they're not going somewhere else. They're willing to pay 1,000 compared to the person paying 125 because, you know, they like, and you got to keep that. It doesn't stay forever, right? You got to reinvest. And I think a lot of it is the fact that you have invested a lot of money over the last three plus years, that you can continue to attract these residents. Because it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to fall, right, than to kind of keep where you're at.
Right.
You don't just stay magically.
So another discussion, but again, that's not for this year. Maybe perhaps next year, maybe we increase the base rent again for incoming residents. That is something that we can consider too. Or we can go that for new rent. Again, rent stratifying it again.
Right.
So just to throw out, maybe 550 becomes for the smaller apartment, maybe go to 600 for a larger apartment. I mean, I think we have a demand there for that.
The goal in my mind and sorry, I didn't mean to, Jason, again, I didn't mean to kind of butt in the middle there, is to plan so that your base rents cover operations.
Sure, exactly.
And anybody paying excess is just the gravy that's allowed to kind of fund capital improvements. If you can get there, which you're not quite at yet because you have too many people, but the slight gradual base rent is kind of what gets you there, right? The slight gradual base rent increases. And then lastly on that, and again, I could get into more numbers, but not everybody's going to be affected, right? And of the ones that are eligible, some of them won't, because of their incomes, the rent increase, even if their base rent goes up, their total rent doesn't change. There's about 20 of them. So when I looked at it a while back, in total, about 100 are going to get an increase. Some of those are less than $10, just the way it works. And a majority of those are exactly the $10. But some are zero. So it's a little over the place, but.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question after we vote on the motion that's on the floor. Okay, Kath? Is she there?
She's muted. There she's there.
I'm here. Am I back?
Can you call the vote unless there's more discussion?
No, I will call the vote. So we're voting on an increase of $10 for Stern Village, affecting base rents under 500, and a 1% increase for calculating adjusted gross income for those currently at 27%, effective July 1, 2021. So that's the motion that's been on the floor. That's the motion that's seconded. Unless there's objection from a commissioner, we'll approve by unanimous consent.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Laurel.
Okay, can I ask a question then about what we just discussed about raising the rent for incoming new tenants? Can we not do that this year? I mean, what you tell us, Harriet, what will the market bear? I mean, if we're already at the lower end of rents.
Right, yeah, I mean, the market would probably bear anywhere in the sixes.
And
we're right.
So can we have a discussion about maybe going up $50 a month on new tenants only? And I'm emphasizing that.
Incoming.
And I didn't want that a part of a discussion of the last motion because I don't want anybody upset or confused that they're going to get hit with, that kind of increase. So this would be for new tenants only.
Right.
What does anybody think about that?
I think, personally, I think that's a great idea. I would like to see to go to $550 for the smaller apartments, the efficiencies, and $600 for the one bedroom.
Emphasizing that. Go ahead, Jason.
As an accountant, I'm a little irked because it creates another tier. You have in essence more rent tiers that you have to track and account for. That's not a good reason to say no. I think if the market bears it, and it behooves you to do it, right? As long as there's no ill effects. I think eventually what this typically moves to, this program, is tiers. Whereas you're gonna have, and just for ease, a third at your highest tier, the middle third at some middle tier, and then the bottom third at a smaller tier, so that you can start saying and evaluating and saying, hey, we're still serving the neediest, so you're gonna have some differentiation. But again, I guess the point is long-term that you have some sort of larger view of where you're hoping to kind of get your dollars at, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I think I heard before that we have not raised that in quite some time.
No, stratified. Again, for incoming tenants coming in. So people that have been at the 110 and 125 have been like that for a very, very long time.
Okay, that topic is not on the agenda. If we want to vote on it tonight, then we're going to have to vote to add it to the agenda. Can it be added to next month's agenda? Or do you want to put it on tonight?
I don't think it requires notice, right, Harriet? I mean, because these are people in the future, they don't exist yet, so.
Exactly. We just let them know, when they fill out the application, that this is how much it is, when we start doing it, yeah.
There is a somewhat of an approval process when CHFA approves the budget. So I do need to know if if I may be able to at least plan accordingly to budget those numbers in, whether or not they're approved or not. I don't know if I could say that on the meaning. I'm going to start looking at the budget, assuming that perhaps you will approve it next month. That makes sense. Because I'm going to forecast, right? Forecast that, the people that you move in are going to pay the higher amounts, right? I mean, you can always say no, and my budgets are a little bit off, but.
Well, to be honest, Jason, we don't have that many vacancies to fill before then. So,
it may not have a huge impact.
Yeah, it won't have a huge impact.
So what do we want to do? Do we want to make a motion to put this on the agenda now? Or is it okay to wait till May? Jason, you've got to do the numbers and the budget and so on. You let me know what's better, which is better.
I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to work on the numbers before the May meeting. And I'm going to assume on my side, whether you know it or not, that I'm going to project that there's going to be some 600s and 650s.
Okay, so can I have a motion to add to the agenda the discussion of rent increase for incoming tenants, not current tenants?
So moved.
Okay.
Second by Charlene.
Second by Charlene. Barbara, you okay with how I worded that? You can always go back and watch me over and over and over again if you'd like to. Okay, so we've added, by unanimous consent, we add this to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, now, Laurel, do you want to make a motion to increase the base rent for new residents beginning July 1?
I guess I'd sort of like to get a sense of what the other two commissioners are thinking. I mean, are you guys even remotely, you want to think about this a little bit more? Because I know it just occurred to me from what Harriet was saying before to even bring this up. So this is kind of hitting everybody upside the head. And I kind of don't want to put you on the spot to have to vote on something without kind of thinking it through. So
Well, I think it makes sense. And,
okay.
I think it makes sense to do it. I mean, it seems to be a wise thing.
Okay.
I don't know enough history of the authority at this point. My concern is just that if our mission is to serve the needy, are we pricing ourselves out of that needy? But then you also have to weigh, we need to be fiscally responsible. And if we're not that, then, then we're not going to meet our mission. So if there are no other ways to bring funds in to balance the operating budget other than rent, then that's that. There's no question. So I'm okay with that.
If I may, I wouldn't say starting July 1st. I would just say incoming residents starting, let's say tomorrow, because you just made the motion, and I still have to get CHA approval.
Okay. And what are we thinking, Harriet? $50?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the exact phraseology of what I'm doing?
So
On $50 increase to base rent?
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
for incoming residents to Stern
Okay.
Village.
So I would like to make a motion that we authorize an increase of $50 to the base rent of new incoming tenants effective today.
Second.
okay, so we have a motion to increase base rent. I'm sorry, Laurel, you were all garbled for me. 50 to, you have the motion, Barbara? Yes,
Yes, I do. You want me to read it?
if
So I'll read the motion just so that we know. You made a motion to authorize the increase of $50 to the base rent for all new incoming tenants effective today, 4/27.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and it was seconded by
Charlene.
Charlene. Okay. All right. Any more discussion on that? I kind of feel the way Charlene does, that our mission is to serve those to live somewhere else. Understand that there
So if I may, our mission is to provide
are
affordable
adjustments that
housing.
are made. Okay.
Okay,
Hey, Kathy, may I?
Yes.
So our mission is to provide affordable housing for low-income residents, affordable, sanitary, safe. So, affordable housing in Trumbull, Connecticut, we are in Fairfield County, this is. If you take a look at what other people, if they want to rent an apartment in our area, you'd see how more expensive it is. So again, it's all about our geography, and there are minimums of income in order to even come to Stern Village. And you look at this, and you say, "Wow, that's really high," but that's the way the state has it set up. So I think this is very fair.
I just, I have that bleeding heart thing that goes, Harriet, it's, you take care of everybody, and the motion is on the floor to increase the base rent for incoming tenants effective as of this vote. If there's more discussion, I will ask for the vote. I'll ask by unanimous consent. Did I lose Charlene?
yes,
Yes.
We lost Charlene.
I was going to add a
Are
little
we
to
at
Jason again. And this was going to really be directed at Charlene, but we lost her because she's the one that first asked this or voiced this concern. And I have some data, because of course, data driven on everything I do here, that really supports the increase. Basically that some of your highest burden tenants are the ones that are paying the highest base rents. To me, that's telling and saying that they not only want to be here, but they need to be here, and they're willing to pay, 75% of their income just to live in. So the demand is there. How can you most effectively do your job of providing safe, affordable housing? Is obviously to maximize revenues, right? For one thing, it's just business 101, right? But if it is the board's position, hi Charlene.
Sorry.
I was responding to you, but now you're back. If the board's main goal of providing housing, in my mind, the best way to do this is to get diverse income tenants. So if you're going to get this next round, we'll say, or over the next couple of years of slightly higher income residents to live there, that'll allow you, if the board so wants, to start earmarking, for lack of a better word. We don't want to get into what CHFA wants you to say, but earmarking some units that maybe protect it for lower income residents. So it allows you to potentially in the future to make those kind of decisions as a board. That says, well, hey, we're getting too top heavy, and maybe we want to make sure we keep 10 to 12 or whatever the number is. But in order to get there, you need to establish a baseline of having, higher income and to protect yourselves, right? Because you can't do both, right? In order to kind of serve the neediest, you unfortunately need the diversity of those that are less needy, right? It's the only way it works without any other source of funding. And I think this is the first step. It's a long haul, right? Just doing $50 on and getting to the 600 may not get enough lower income to do that, but it's one step in that direction. And I think if you look, you're averaging about 400. That's what, if we average everybody that's what they pay for rent. The
Okay.
more you can get to the 600, 650, or if that's the numbers, 550, 600, the more you can keep at 200 or whatever the number is. That could be for future discussions. And I think, but it's important to know that those mechanisms can be put in place. I think though that you want to make sure you're protecting yourselves and putting in a structure that kind of allows you that flexibility. And certainly doing this without hurting current residents is, a fail-safe way to kind of get you there, or at least to start. That makes sense.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We were waiting for you to come back, Charlene. So,
Oh, sorry.
so unless there's any objection, we'll approve this motion by unanimous consent. Are we
Yes.
good? Okay. All right. Page 2 of my agenda is adjournment. Who wants to make that motion?
I can't make motions, but I have a question, Barbara. I have to provide the board minutes to CHFA and DOH. So if I can have them, before the end of the week, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you can hear me, I did want to say that Laurel and I have set up meeting monthly with Harriet to discuss issues and things that are going on. I want to check with the town attorneys tomorrow and see if I can provide a summary to the rest of the board as an internal document without it being an FOI issue or whatever, just so we can give you a summary of topics that we've discussed or things that are going on. Was I hearable? You're all frozen. Did that go through?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay. All right. So once I hear from the town attorneys, if you get for our next meeting, if you get a summary, it really is meant to be an internal document. And as long as they say that I can use it as that, we will keep you posted on what we discuss. We had a lot of ideas that we throw around, and any more than 2 would be a quorum, which would have to be a noticed meeting. So I will do my best to keep everybody informed as to what we're chatting about. Okay? Anybody want to make the motion to adjourn and put me out of my misery right now?
Laurel.
No.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded by. Who's seconding? I can't, you're all frozen.
Charlene.
Charlene seconding? All
Yep.
right. By unanimous consent, I'm getting off this meeting.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you
Thanks.
for everything.